Never, ever, ever seen such a complete failure, says the new FTX CEO who oversaw Enron's bankruptcy. That's how bad it is. You know, when the market bell, I was just wrong. You know, when you have the guy who oversaw Enron, right, after its collapse, and then now he's looking at FTX and he's saying it's even worse. That tells you how bad things really are. So there's basically absence of trustworthy data, no financial safeguards in place whatsoever. Everything that he's seen is just risky and risky and risky, and there's nothing secure about anything. And he was saying too, there like the admin key that like the whole group, the admin email that the whole group had was, you know, was the main login, right? Like they were sharing everything. I mean, it was just bad, just very bad, very, very, very bad. So whatever Sam's been saying about how much is missing, right? And he tried to divert blame to Caroline, saying it's all Alameda's fault, right? FTX was secure. We had more assets and this and that. You know what? After this is all said and done, that $8 billion hole could turn into a $20 billion hole or even more. We don't know because none of the stuff on the books is actually accurate. And they have to audit every single thing, every single asset that the company has at this point. That's how bad things are. So this is the reason why when evaluating crypto projects or crypto exchanges, sometimes having some seasoned people in there is not a bad thing. I get in crypto space, a lot of people want to see new blood, the young people come in with new ideas and start new things, and that's great and all. But, you know, when you're running a multi-billion-dollar operation, you know, having some of that maturity wouldn't be so bad. But then again, of course, with FTX, when things were good and things were flying, you know, it seemed like they were on top of the world, right? It's easy to say that now in hindsight, but one of the criterias that I look at, you know, sometimes with new projects is to look at the leadership. You know, are they trustworthy? Have they done anything, right? Or are they nobody? So something to keep in mind going forward when evaluating new projects and new exchanges to use. Now, that hacker that took $600 million, he or she, could be Caroline, they are converting everything to ETH right now. So they are like one of the biggest ETH holders, and even some of that into BUSD. But no one knows why. What is this person trying to do? They have accumulated now over 200,000 ETH within the top 30 of all ETH holders. And it seems like they're planning something, but no one knows what. Right? And who is the hacker? Who is the hacker? According to SBF, it's someone that somehow threw a malware on one of their computers. And at this point, you know, it's somewhat believable because they have complete disregards when it comes to security protocols. So maybe it did happen, or maybe it's one of them and they're still trying to figure it out. They're winging it. So they're just converting everything to ETH right now. But what's the end game? Maybe it just gets locked up forever. Maybe that's the end game. I don't know at this point. But that is also developing right now. Also, what's developing is, you know what? Voyager may be saved after all. I did not know this, but when FTX bought Voyager, you know, they were bidding against others. And I think, you know, maybe I did read it, but Binance was in the running along with someone else. So now Voyager could be rebought by Binance. The problem is, according to this buyout already happened. FTX.US already owns Voyager. So basically, Binance has to try to buy it off of FTX.US. So that may complicate things. So we'll see. Yesterday, it was reported that Binance may be trying to help Genesis, right? Trying to buy them out. Don't know if it's just rumor or not, but Voyager, we'll see. We'll see. CZ does say he's not trying to emerge as the white knight. It's not like he's taking an opportunity to try to buy everything to make himself look good. Overall, he just wants the industry to move forward and get past what we're seeing right now. And Binance is also launching a free online crypto course with NFT certificates if you pass. So that's fantastic. More education in space is always good. And lastly, about CZ, there are a lot of people right now, a lot of bears, of course, taking shots. Okay, one of the biggest bears is Norelli Rubini, who has been very, very, very negative about crypto ever since the beginning, right? Of course, he's taking shots. He's taking shots at CZ. He's like, people in crypto are, what, 7 Cs? 7 Cs, and none of the Cs are good. What's the 7 Cs he said? Where is it? I saw something where he said 7 C's, basically like crooks, corrupt, con men, something like that. I don't know where it is now. It disappeared. Anyways, whatever he said about crypto and CZ was not very good. And CZ's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what he thinks. It doesn't matter what any of the bears think, right? Bitcoin will continue on. Crypto will continue on. And that's that. That's that. So CZ is doing a lot of damage control right now, especially CNBC. CNBC also turned very negative recently, right? Of course. And it's not just him. Anthony Papagliano did a great interview recently, right? And kind of shot back. CZ is doing the same, and others are doing the same as well. I mean, Bitcoiners are not going to be swayed by this. We know better, right? But it just sucks. Every time you have a collapse, every time you have a down market, it seems like everyone all of a sudden just turns against the industry, and that's unfortunate. You know who else is not giving up is President Bukele of El Salvador. In fact, he's taking his DCA to the extreme now. He will be buying 1 Bitcoin per day now. That is a great way to DCA. Regardless of the price, 1 Bitcoin per day. Right now, they hold about 2,400 worth of Bitcoin, about 103 million. Even though it's down to about 40 million, they don't care. He believes in Bitcoin and what it means and what it does to his country. So he will continue to buy 1 Bitcoin per day. Fantastic. Fantastic. What else is going on? Well, as for other things for Bitcoin, you have hedge fund manager Mark Yusko that believes that Bitcoin is still on its way to 100,000. The true believers do not believe anything has changed because the fundamentals have not changed. You still have a set supply. You still have the inflation rate being cut every 4 years. You still have the holders increasing. You still have number of addresses increasing. You still have the miners, and they're hashing away, and hash rate is at all-time high. All these things are pointing upwards. Fundamentals are getting stronger. So, of course, why would any price predictions change? Tim Draper also just came out and said 250,000, no problem. Kathy Wood still, she came out and said, hey, 500,000, no problem. Michael Saylor, if you ask him, Bitcoin will go to infinite, right? These guys, they believe they're not going to go away anytime soon. And then, of course, if you look at stuff like this, some of the on-chain metrics, this one from Plan B, right? This is looking at the logarithmic regression, and Bitcoin has never been this far off from the regression curve. So that tells you something. Usually, the more it deviates from it, the more likely it's a bottom. And right now, we have never been this far away from that regression curve. So think about that. And also, if you look at something like realized price, we have never, ever been this far away from that realized price as well. So even looking at on-chain metrics shows you, and even if you take these out and just look at how bearish people are, right? When people are like getting to a point where they're like, I have to sell, that's usually a good indicator of bottom. All right. So outside of Bitcoin, just a few economic news. So, of course, a lot of people are still looking at inflation, at the Fed, at what's going on right around the world today in the U.S. market, not doing very well, starting off in the red. And, of course, people can't get over the FTX. It's right on the front page, right? This kind of headline news is not good. Not good overall, just scaring. It's just trying to scare people, right? But the good thing is Bitcoin people are not swayed by this. But, people are still worried about what's happening with the Fed, what they're going to do, rate hikes. You got Fed Bullard here who has been traditionally very, very, very hawkish, even more hawkish than Powell. He's like, rate hikes had only limited effects on inflation. So how do you interpret that? You interpret that there's going to be a lot more rate hikes, right? So that's not looking good. But even though he says it has limited effects, there are definitely effects on the consumers, on retailers, on businesses. Amazon just cut 10,000 people, yet they're still looking to trim their headcount through a voluntary buyout program, basically an early retirement program, right? So that's how bad it is for Amazon right now. The company that didn't care about profits, only worried about growth, seems like they have stopped growing, and they are now shedding by tens of thousands of people. That's not good. If Amazon is going through this, think about others, right? Kohls is basically saying, hey, it's really, really, really bad, So this is what people are afraid of. Rate hikes may not have the consequences that the Fed wants, right? It may end up making things worse. So again, this is putting a lot of fear on markets right now. And UK also has crazy high inflation right now. And inflation rate for much of Europe is still very high. And of course, that affects global trade and global economies.